Have you ever lovingly applied homemade compost to your garden only to watch your plants turn yellow and mysteriously die a few days later? Welcome to the club. Today, we are talking about 3 ways to distinguish incompletely rotted compost. I promise you, by the end of this video, you will possess a superpower that will save you hundreds of dollars in lost plants and wasted fertilizer. But let me ask you a controversial question first. Do you think that really stinky, foul-smelling compost is just super strong and packed with nutrients? If you said yes, you're falling for one of the biggest gardening lies out there. Stick around, because the truth is going to shock you. And I want to know in the comments if you have ever made this fatal gardening error. To understand why this happens, we have to look at what compost actually is. Compost is not just dirt. It is the miraculous result of millions of tiny microbes breaking down organic waste into rich, usable plant food. This process takes time, oxygen, and moisture. For hundreds of years, farmers have known that timing is everything. If you stop the natural decomposition process too early, you do not have fertilizer. You just have a pile of rotting garbage. Historically, applying raw manure or unfinished compost was a known way to accidentally destroy an entire crop yield. So, let us dive into exactly how you can protect your garden from this invisible threat. Let us start by uncovering the hidden danger lurking in your backyard. We often think that any dark organic matter is instantly good for our gardens. But here is the truth. Immature compost is actually a thief. When you put incompletely rotted compost into your garden beds, you are setting a trap for your plants. It seems counterintuitive, right? You might be asking yourself why natural materials would hurt natural plants. The answer comes down to resources. When compost is not finished, the microscopic bugs and bacteria inside it are still working very hard. They are extremely hungry. They need a massive amount of nitrogen to fuel their breakdown work. If you put that unfinished mixture next to your vegetable roots, those microbes will steal the nitrogen right out of the soil. They are much faster and much stronger than your plant roots. Your plants will suddenly turn yellow. They will stop growing. They might even die. Imagine serving your plant a toxic energy drink instead of pure water. That is exactly what unripe compost does. It robs the soil of the very nutrients you were trying to add. This is why learning to identify finished compost is the single most important skill for any organic gardener. It is the difference between an amazing harvest and a complete garden disaster. So, how do we spot this plant killer? Let us talk about method number 1, which is absolutely the easiest. The nose knows. Your sense of smell is the most powerful tool in your gardening kit. I want you to walk up to your compost pile right now, grab a small handful, and bring it up to your face. Take a deep breath. What do you smell? Finished, perfectly mature compost has a very specific scent. It smells like a deep forest floor just after a warm spring rain. It is rich, it is earthy, it is actually quite pleasant. Now let us shatter a huge myth right here. Many beginners think that because it is fertilizer, it is supposed to smell horrible. They think a bad smell means it is strong and powerful. That is completely false. If your compost smells sour, that is a huge red flag. If it smells like ammonia, rotting meat, or a terrible garbage dump, it is absolutely not ready for your garden. Think of the difference between opening a fresh bag of premium potting soil versus opening your kitchen trash can after 3 days in the sun. That earthy smell is the ultimate proof that the good bacteria have finished their job. Never ignore what your nose is telling you. But what is actually happening when the smell is terrible? Let us look closer at these bad odors. A foul smell means your compost pile has gone anaerobic. This is a fancy scientific word that simply means there is no oxygen left inside the pile. When oxygen disappears, the good microbes die off. Then the bad microbes take over the party. These bad microbes do not breathe oxygen. Instead, they release nasty gases like methane and sulfur as they eat. That sulfur is what gives you that rotten egg smell. But the smell is only the warning siren. The real danger is the invisible acids these anaerobic bacteria leave behind. These organic acids are highly toxic to delicate young plant roots. If you put this smelly sludge around your tomatoes, the acids will literally burn the root hairs right off the plant. Imagine pouring strong vinegar directly onto your garden. That is the level of damage we are talking about. To fix this, you have to introduce oxygen immediately. You need to flip the pile and let it breathe. It is like rescuing a drowning swimmer. You have to get air into that pile before it can ever be safe for your plants to consume. Now we move to method number 2, the visual and texture inspection. You need to look at your compost like a detective at a crime scene. Finished compost should look like dark, crumbly chocolate cake. It should be an even, rich brown or black color. Here is the golden rule. You should not be able to recognize any of the original ingredients. If you can clearly see a piece of a banana peel, it is not ready. If you can see the shape of a whole apple core, it is not ready. If you can identify grass clippings or whole brown leaves, the compost needs more time. There is one exception to this rule, however. Eggshells and small fruit pits take years to break down completely. Seeing a few eggshells is totally fine, but everything else should be a uniform dark mystery. There is a common myth that chunky compost is better because it allows air into the soil. While soil needs air, those large, recognizable chunks of rotting food will attract pests and steal nitrogen. If your compost looks like a salad that went bad in the refrigerator, keep it far away from your garden beds. It must look like real dirt before it ever touches your plants. Let us dive deeper into the texture aspect of method number 2. This is where we perform the famous squeeze test. You have looked at your compost. Now you need to feel it. Put on a glove if you prefer, and grab a large handful of the material. Squeeze it tightly in your fist. Finished compost has a very specific moisture level. When you open your hand, the material should hold its shape like a loose ball, but it should crumble easily if you poke it with your finger. Most importantly, when you squeeze it tightly, water should not drip down your arm. Unripe compost often fails this texture test completely. It is usually slimy, sticky, and far too wet. Sometimes you might find patches that are bone dry and dusty because they never decomposed at all. Think of the texture of perfectly mixed cookie dough. It holds together, but it is not a watery mess. If your compost feels slimy like wet clay, or if it drips muddy water when squeezed, the decomposition process is stuck. It means the materials are drowning in their own juices. You cannot put slimy, wet organic matter on plant roots because it will cause root rot instantly. This brings us to method number 3, the ultimate proof. We call this the plastic bag heat test. Sometimes compost looks dark, and smells okay, but it is secretly still cooking on the inside. You cannot see this with your eyes. Here's how you reveal the truth. Take a common plastic zip bag from your kitchen, fill it halfway with a sample of your compost. Seal the bag completely shut. Leave it sitting on your counter at normal room temperature for 3 full days. Keep it out of direct sunlight. After 3 days, open the bag. First, take a smell. Did it suddenly turn sour inside the bag? If yes, it is not ready. Second, stick your hand inside. Does the compost feel noticeably warm to the touch? If the material has heated up inside the bag, it means the microbes are still highly active. They are still breaking down raw materials and generating heat. If you put that into your garden, it will heat up in your soil and cook your plant roots alive. Finished compost is biologically stable. It will not heat up again, even if you trap it in a bag. It will just sit there quietly, cool and ready to use. If you want to be a true compost master, there is an advanced version of method number 3. We call it the seed germination test. This is the absolute guarantee that your compost is 100% safe. Get a small plastic cup and poke a hole in the bottom. Fill it purely with your compost. Do not mix it with potting soil. Now plant 3 fast-growing seeds in it. Radish seeds or bean seeds work perfectly for this test. Water it gently and wait a few days. Radishes usually sprout in just 3 to 5 days. If your seeds do not sprout at all, your compost is toxic. If the seeds sprout but the leaves are yellow, twisted, or stunted, your compost is still releasing those dangerous acids we talked about earlier. However, if your seeds sprout quickly and the little leaves are deep green and healthy, congratulations! You have created perfect plant-safe fertilizer. This acts like a tiny nursery experiment. It is so much better to sacrifice 3 little radish seeds in a plastic cup than to risk killing an entire raised bed of expensive tomato plants. Let us take a moment to understand the chemical reality of what happens when you ignore these 3 warning signs. Why do roots hate unripe compost so much? It all comes down to the carbon to nitrogen ratio. When you build a compost pile, you mix brown materials like dead leaves, which are carbon, with green materials like grass, which are nitrogen. In an unfinished pile, there is still too much raw carbon left over. Nature demands balance. When raw carbon enters the soil, the local soil bacteria rush in to consume it. To do that, they absorb all the available nitrogen in the surrounding dirt. This creates a severe nitrogen vacuum. Your poor plants are left with absolutely nothing to eat. Their lower leaves will turn yellow first. Then the whole plant will stop growing. It is a slow, silent starvation. This is why you must wait until the compost microbes have finished their meal in the bin. Once they are done eating, they die off and release all that beautiful nitrogen back into the finished compost. That is the magic moment when compost changes from a plant killer into a plant savior. So, what exactly should you do if your compost fails these 3 tests? Do not panic and do not throw it away. You just need to fix the environment inside your pile. If it failed the smell test and is slimy, it needs emergency aeration. Take a pitchfork and turn the whole pile completely inside out. Mix in a large amount of dry brown materials like shredded cardboard, dried leaves, or straw. This will absorb the excess moisture and let the pile breathe again. If your pile failed the visual test because it is just a dry heap of recognizable leaves, that will not break down, it needs the opposite treatment. It needs nitrogen and water. Add fresh green grass clippings, coffee grounds, and spray it down with a garden hose until it feels like a damp sponge. Fixing unripe compost is just like fixing a soup that tastes wrong. You adjust the ingredients and you let it cook a little longer. Nature wants to break this material down. You just have to provide the correct balance of air, water, greens, and browns. Once you fix the balance, the magic will start happening again in just a few days. Finally, we must talk about the ultimate secret weapon for perfect compost maturation. That weapon is patience. Curing compost takes time, and you cannot rush nature. Even after your compost passes the smell test, looks like dark, crumbly soil, and stays cool in the bag test, there is one more step. You must let it cure. Move the finished compost out of your active bin and put it in a separate pile. Let it rest there for 3 to 4 weeks. Do not add any new food scraps to it. This resting period is crucial. It allows the chemical compounds to stabilize completely. It allows earthworms to move in and add their rich castings. It allows complex fungi to develop, which are incredibly beneficial for plant roots. Think of this process like letting a fantastic steak rest on the cutting board before you slice it, or letting a fine wine breathe after opening the bottle. If you have the patience to let your compost cure for 1 extra month, you will transform good fertilizer into world-class garden gold. Your plants will reward you with growth like you have never seen before. And there you have it. We have completely exposed the hidden dangers of unfinished compost. You now know that throwing raw, smelly organic matter into your garden is a recipe for disaster. But more importantly, you are now armed with the 3 ultimate tests. You know how to use your nose to find that sweet, earthy scent. You know how to use your eyes and hands to ensure a dark, crumbly texture. And you have the undeniable power of the bag test and seed test to prove your compost is truly mature. The biggest plot twist in gardening is that sometimes the most productive thing you can do is simply wait. Do nothing and let nature finish its incredible work. By practicing patience, you will protect your roots, avoid toxic acids, and unleash massive growth in your garden. Thank you so much for watching and learning with us today. If this video saved your garden from a compost disaster, please hit that subscribe button and give us a like. We have tons more organic gardening secrets to share. Now, I have a question for you. What is the worst thing you have ever accidentally put in your compost bin? Tell me your funniest or worst compost mistakes in the comments below, and let us talk about it.